Hello everybody and welcome back. Good to talk to all of you again this morning. It is actually quite early in the morning. Anyways, a couple days ago I saw this forum post by Venom, and Venom was saying, hey, I just played this game in the Alsace, tried to do my absolute best in this battle to save the day, and I felt like it was one of those games where if I'd done something a little different, I maybe could have won the day, but I'm not sure what I could have done differently, right? It was a very, very close fight. What could I have done better? So, and Venom was obviously asking for expert commentary. So, Venom, here you go. Hopefully, this commentary will help you in analyzing this battle and allow you to figure out sort of what went right, what went wrong. So, Venom is playing Alsace. This is a ship that, as of the present, is a bit of an awkward ship in some ways. Most notably because they've nerfed her Sigma. She's just not as accurate as she used to be. Her current Sigma value is like 1.6, which, well, it's just not all that good. Still, there are going to be some cases where even with Alsace, even with the 1.6 Sigma, you still have to be that much more careful with your aim, right? You really have to get those main battery shells to target the right area is the best way to put it, right? The next thing is regarding sort of the build of the ship, and from watching Venom's replay, I think Venom is running a secondary build. And secondary builds, honestly, on Alsace and French ships in general is questionable at best, and it has a lot to do with the fact that what you're depending on is the setting of fires for damage, and the 152s, the larger caliber secondaries, to be able to get some kinds of penetration. Because the 100mm on the French, well, they don't penetrate a lot, only 17mm, which against most of the higher tier ships you run into, they're just not penetrating. So you're really just hoping for a little bit of damage from the 152s and some fires for your damage. So building for that, not really worth it considering the amount of investment you have to put in terms of captain points and things like that. I would still personally go in the direction of main battery for the Alsace, even though now its Sigma is only 1.6. And of course, the battle has now started for 2 minutes, and if you've noticed the fact that only now has Venom actually started to move. And in the early stages of the game, if you pay attention to where the team was moving to, had Venom stayed with them, I mean, there could have been a lot more pressure coming down this particular flank. But, maybe Venom was busy at the time, so I can't really criticize that. Obviously, I wasn't there, right? And you have to keep in mind that I will mostly be pointing out things that are like, here's something you could have done differently, like right now. I can't really talk about other circumstances, like the fact that he was not here for 2 minutes. All right, so the battle begins, and he's doing the right thing right now. He's trying to catch up to his team. He's utilized his speed boosts, which, again, not sure about the circumstances, so is okay. First salvo out against the Missouri. Okay, like not much to be said for that one. Maybe instead of starting with the AP salvo with Alsace, you could have started with HE, especially considering you should have been able to sort of see the position of that Missouri. So especially since that first salvo would be going through some sort of gap, HE first and then AP. Again, that's more of a situational maybe, maybe not kind of thing, right? So not really nitpicking. So let's go to this particular salvo. Pay attention to the enemy Missouri. Range pretty close. Missouri is broadside. But take a look at where the shells are being led. They're led just a little bit too far forward, not really hitting the critical parts. Damage-wise, not very good at all. I would advise Venom, because I'm going to see this sort of multiple times during the course of this battle, take a little bit more time with your aim. Now, I've actually noticed that you have an aiming tutorial on the forum, so again, you've definitely got some experience in the game with aiming, but you might want to re-examine it a little bit, again, especially with the sort of understanding that certain crosshairs, like the dynamic crosshair, is really, really bad. You might want to consider more accurate crosshairs as well. Do keep in mind that sometimes you really have to think clearly, especially when you're taking those shots, especially with battleships, to sort of slow down and really, really line that shot up, because you want to hit in all the essential areas. Okay, so 2 enemy destroyers are here right now. You've got an Akazuki and a Lo Yang in front. The 2 enemy destroyers are pretty close, and so right now Venom does the right thing, which is not really to push in there, because there's no point throwing your battleship into an area where the probability of torpedoes is high. So I actually fully agreed that, you know, turning away is probably the good idea. Line up your shots, take your shots, but again, especially with some of these, just a little bit more time, factoring the increases in speed and things like that. Without Leningrad, I mean, if you led a little bit further forward, you could have hit a lot more shells, and it would have been that much more scary. I know your secondary build, and you're trying to get your secondary guns onto target, but like with a battleship, especially one with this many shells, like you have to make your main battery count. Okay, so at least so far so good, right? Most of what his team has been doing on this flank has been good. You've pushed all the way. You've got this enemy Lenin that is basically at the very, very, very edge of the map. And at this point in time, I think Venom spots the incoming push that's coming up on the other flank towards the cap. And I'm thinking that he's going to sort of notice that, and he's going to start to consider maybe, yeah, right here, he's going to start considering maybe having to turn around and engage the other ships on the other side. Not really a bad idea, considering this Lenin is really out of the fight. Like, realistically, this Lenin is not in the fight at all, and even if that Lenin tries to get to cap, it'll take him forever. So this decision to sort of pull away, not a bad decision, especially since that the allied battleship, the Georgia, is there, and Georgia is better than Lenin, you know, secondary performance and everything. So I think going away here, again, the right call. This is not a bad decision at all. Plus, the Alsace secondaries are absolutely raining down on this Lenin. However, I do want you to pay attention to the ineffectiveness, mostly, of the secondaries. In fact, I mean, he was at like 70-something hits, and you notice that maybe it was like 4,000 damage. The damage is really, really low. And a lot more of the damage is going to be coming from this fire that, you know, keeps getting with the secondaries. Yeah, unfortunately, French secondaries are just not all that great, and usually I don't really recommend that for a French battleship. Would much prefer, again, focusing on survivability and focusing on things like main battery accuracy and, of course, concealment, just getting to the right positions and hitting, right, instead of depending on the secondaries. Still, the secondaries do a bit of work. I'm not saying that they're doing absolutely nothing. They are putting in some damage here and there, but it's not really worth it considering the investment in terms of points. Okay, so Lenin is going to go down right here. Fantastic. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on the minimap, because typically that's where you sort of see what the enemy is doing. And you'll notice that there's a pretty hard push towards the cap from the enemy, right? They still have a big battleship to the south, and that's the FDG. But there is this big push to the north. And the north push is an Izumo, there is a Leon there, there is, I believe, a destroyer there, the Minsk over there, and there is going to be a Fiji, and anyways, we'll see how this goes. And there are going to be moments where you're going to notice the mistakes while performing under pressure, and that's one of the things about World of Warships is if you really, really want to hit that next tier performance, it's about being able to really rationally think about what's going to happen, where the threat is, where the danger is, what's the thing that you need to do at this very moment, because it becomes very easy, especially when you're fighting, to lose track of that and to just focus on the very, very small micro fight in front of you, like, oh, I gotta angle this target and I gotta try to engage this, and like that's all you start to think about. You have to still see the bigger picture. Okay, that salvo, again, too rushed. With a Fiji that you know is at this distance, where likely to be spotted again, you could have waited a little bit, seen if he popped up, and then you would have been able to get a locked on salvo, and that would have been a lot better. Torpedoes, these torpedoes are close too. Like, not that close, but close, right? Again, this is a little dicey, you know, going into this kind of a position against an Izumo here. But I think luckily the Izumo doesn't really get off a really good salvo here. Okay, don't even worry about that guy. Not really in the picture right now, right? Sort of still mostly focus on what the direct threat is, right? Not saying that you ignore the bigger map, but you still have to see what is direct threat, right? Okay, this Izumo is about to go down almost again. Okay, behind rock, so not really getting any secondary action here. Okay, so focus secondaries on the Minsk. Okay, this is not a bad idea. Minsk is going to eat a torpedo and die. Okay. Alright. Okay, so once again, take a look at what's in front of you here. You got a Fiji here. Izumo's really low. So try to remove that Izumo out of the battle, which is what Venom actually does. He's going to turn his main guns, and he's going to try to get rid of this Izumo. Once again, might want to slow down just a touch and make sure you target the shot, right? But again, it's a bit of bad luck as well, you know, just not enough damage sometimes, right? This is where you really want to follow a shot from a team, but it's okay. Take another shot, doesn't really get it, it's okay. Turn attention back to more immediate concerns, which is the stuff that's on the cap. Now, this is where you need to be very, very clear-minded, right? You need to look in front of you and say, okay, what is here? And the thing that's directly in front of you is this Leon, the Z-23, and this Fiji. Okay, so engage the stuff that you can kill off relatively easily, which is the Fiji. Fiji is a Royal Navy cruiser with the easier to hit citadel, relatively speaking. So you try to do that first. But Fiji does what Fiji does, which is pop smoke, or at least hide in smoke, and then start spamming you full of shells. Okay. Alright, enemy DD still around in the area. Leon is to the north. Ow. Now, Leon is annoying, but hey, you're in an Alsace tier 9 battleship. Leon is something that you should be able to get rid of, right? And so here is where I would say you might want to start thinking about actually getting rid of that Leon first, like stay in that engagement, right? And right here the Fiji does pop up. And the Fiji comes up again, and it's that tempting target to go after, right? But if you take a look at the map, look at the direction that this Fiji is going. Fiji is essentially trying to disengage and get out of the area again. So now the immediate concern around the cap becomes the Leon and the destroyer, right? And that's the immediate concern. Going south again, I can still understand why, right? Maybe you were trying to protect yourself from torpedoes, but I think the sort of priority would have been to stay in this area first. And instead of running south and engaging with the Fiji, I think right here, as the Fiji is disengaging, probably should have turned fully around and re-engaged that Leon. Now what you can do is wait until a salvo like this is passed and turn here. Turn, and engage the Leon. Because if you engage the Leon right now, what immediately happens is your group of ships that are currently busy with that battleship, that Loyang over there, the Naizenel to the south a little bit, those two ships free up. And then instead of being a one ship on however many engagement, you become 3 ships versus whatever the enemy team has. That's a big difference in terms of the numbers that you have on your side. But unfortunately, yeah, Venom goes really, really far south, and now he's trying to pick a fight that if you look at it, the numbers don't really favor him. Because what he's now got himself into is instead of having, you know, a 3 ship versus 2 ships, which is the Satago and this FTG, it is now becoming 1 ship on 2. And typically speaking, those kinds of engagements, especially where the cruisers on the flank and the battleships in front, not the best fight in the world to have. But still, Venom chooses to engage this particular fight. Now, he's got AP loaded on his main guns. And here's where things get a little bit dicey, right? You have to decide, can you effectively deal with the FDG with your main guns? And the answer is, well, it depends if the FDG gives you that broadside shot or not. If it doesn't, your main guns are going to struggle against an FDG. On the other hand, if you stay bow into the FDG, FDG can't do much to you either, right? But take a look at the minimap, and the last spotted position of the enemy cruiser is right there on the flank. This is where you've got to make that determination whether or not you want your main guns to sort of engage that particular ship, or whether or not you want your main guns to deal with the battleship. And since you're in a position where you're not really getting that much damage, maybe your secondaries for the battleship, and you might want to carefully watch for those salvos against that particular cruiser, which just popped up on the map. And there it is. And look at where that cruiser's position actually was. Had the main guns been loaded, aimed in that direction, cruiser could have been taken care of right then and there. Okay, cruiser also gets off torpedoes, which is... okay, this is going to have a little bit of need of dodging a torpedo. Okay, luckily with the speed boost on, the Alsace does get away. Alright. Now, this is the critical little engagement, and this engagement here could have saved your life and allowed you to maybe turn this battle again, alright? Okay, so take a look at the FDG. It's not actually as healthy, right? Only around 20,000 HP. FDG gets off the shot, and look at your angle. You're angled enough that the shots bounce. Good. Alright. Okay, taking the salvo doesn't really matter. I mean, if you hit, great, you did some damage. If you didn't hit, didn't really matter. Not super important. But watch what happens. So the FDG is moving up. Pay attention to the FDG's movement because he's behind the island right now, right? Had you needed some help, maybe pop your scalp plane. You've had this plane and you haven't really used it, Scalp Plane can provide you with vision. You need the vision right now. You need to know exactly what this FDG is doing. Okay, but Venom has turned around to engage this Atago. And this Atago, you're really going to have to aim carefully. And I know the dispersion is a little rough, but aim that one just maybe a little bit better. And I think that Atago would have been a one-shot affair, because up until now there have been no citadels at all, even though you've gotten some pretty good broadsides. Alright, but take a look at the minimap. The minimap shows you FDG has already turned around. This means that the next salvo is going to come while you're broadside to the FDG. And as soon as I saw the FDG turning and you're not kiting away, I was like, the next salvo, you're dead. And there you go. Now, what you should have done right there was actually kite away. Go turn, kite away, get angle to the FDG, and continue to keep your secondaries and rear turret on the Atago. You would have been able to kill the Atago, keep yourself alive, and you might have been able to turn this battle. Anyways, Venom, I hope this video has been helpful to you. For everybody else, I hope you picked up some useful little tips or whatnot. If you have your own replay that you want me to analyze in one of these videos, you can join the Discord server. Link and invite is in the video description. You can send me a message and, we'll figure it out. Other than that, folks, have yourselves a good one, and I'll talk to all of you again really, really soon.